Welcome everyone back to my channel. Today I have a special guest. This is Drew from Kittle. He produces all of, or at least most of the Kittle content that you see throughout YouTube. And he also has a lot of background in design. He is just such a wealth of knowledge as far as design goes. So it's really exciting because we're going to be talking about 2024 trends with Drew from Kittle today. So I'm super interested, Drew, on what you have to say. Welcome to the channel, and we could get just straight into your
Yeah.
design predictions for trends and a little bit even on, I know you said part of your list is some product
Mhm.
based too, as far as print on demand
Yeah.
goes. So
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Well, first, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you. As always, of course. I mean, you've been on the channel so many times. It's just like we have a continual like conversation that picks up every time, which is super helpful. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some trends and what I was kind of mentioning to you earlier, and that I want everybody to think about is that there is a difference between consumer trends and like design trends for the sake of design. And I guess what I would mean by that is the practicality of it. What are you going to use the design trend for? So if it doesn't apply or make sense for what you're currently doing already, then there's not really a reason to kind of like chase this trend. One I was mentioning to you before that's on my prediction list is this kind of organic, eco-friendly, and I'll give you some examples so you can see here. This kind of like organic packaging logo style has been on the rise, and I think one reason is because people are being more conscious of what they're using. They're being more conscious of the environment. They're being more conscious of like natural gases and all this stuff. So we're seeing more companies come out with this stuff. However, that is not really a one for one for like print on demand. I mean, of course, organic, eco-friendly, there is a whole niche and sub niches for that. I'm just saying for that trend, what we're seeing is for like logo and package design. Now, as we get into some of the trends that I think are going to be big for consumer trends, which is what I'll share with you all, and hopefully is specific to Etsy, there are a couple that I think we can like start to kind of experiment with or capitalize on. And one of them is the use of abstract shapes, and specifically abstract shapes as masks. So again, I'll share some examples that you can show on the screen where you're creating, whether it's an invitation card that you want to do via print on demand on Etsy, or perhaps you want to sell a template to something, as opposed to just having like the photograph and your text up top and your text at the bottom. Maybe the photo of the couple, or maybe the Christmas card, the photo of your dog or whatever, is in like a super crazy like organic shape, or maybe it's in a star, or maybe it's in a, I don't know, maybe it's actually cut up in between several, so it looks like it's kind of jagged. There's a face here, and then a part of the face here, and part of the face here. Again, the visuals are a little bit easier, but what I think that does is kind of like provide a more dynamic look to the card, or any stationery, really. This doesn't have to just apply to like cards. That was kind of what came off the top of my head. You could utilize that kind of abstract shape for your t-shirt designs. I mean, think about all of the like locations you could visit, whether it's national parks or like you go to another country and you want to make designs, t-shirt designs based off of that visit. Well, you can throw kind of the landscape in this kind of abstract shape with some nice type, and then now you're kind of set apart from the people who are perhaps just kind of throwing the square ratio on a shirt. Does that make sense? Like this kind of abstract style, I guess.
yeah, that sounds so unique and so cool. And I think that's like I totally agree with as far as this new year coming up that doing the abstract types of looks and something that's just different and
Hmm.
creative and unique to people's shops, the abstract
Right.
can really make a big difference. So
Yeah, and it's not, it's great because it's not really like it's not destroying anything that people are not already comfortable with, right? It's just kind of taking the normal and making it a little bit more new and exciting. Like one great principle to always think is like, people don't always want like new, they want old in a new way. So like think about that. Like if you're just throwing the landscape in the square, how can I maybe incorporate that into a couple of different masks that look cool and they're organic shapes. So that's that one. Another trend I think that will be, oh gosh, specifically hot on Etsy, I just know it, is trippy or liquefied type. And again, I've got some examples here for you to see. So we already know, and you know very well, Heather, that the kind of retro wavy text performs really well. Like whatever it says, it doesn't matter as long as you get that groovy retro text in there. It kind of does really, really well. So we're seeing even more of that, but like turned up to the max. So like it's less like just that it's retro and wavy. It's like the font itself, or the typeface rather, I guess, is actually like liquidy. Like when you type into it, it is already doing the work for you, which is going to make the bar of entry to that style even lower. And it's going to give you the ability to create some really, really cool stuff. It's almost like liquefied like metal or like chrome or like mercury, if you know what that looks like, when you can kind of like make it all these different shapes and stuff like that. Not to get too scientific, but it's just amazing what people can do with fonts now and font design and how we can make it look super watery. And we're working on some of those for Kittle. We already have like quite a few in there in that like liquefied streetwear-ish look. But yeah, I mean, you know that the groovy retro text does well, so I think this one's going to do well too.
Yeah, it's almost like putting the wave effect, but like vertical, because you know how it's like horizontal. So it's almost like
Right.
we're just changing it up. And I love what you said about like making a old type of trend maybe new, or something old in a new way. That's kind of doing exactly what you're talking about. So I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and it is kind of like taking that type and making it on all angles, not just like one that's do it. So then if you like, I think about it as like you take that liquefied font and then you apply waviness to it, man, then you're going all over the place and you can make some really cool looking designs with that. Um, so another one, so maybe the third trend that I have looked, researched, maybe I've also talked to some people about. Um, I don't have like a specific, I guess, product that it's specific to, but it is pastel or muted color palettes. And that could be one that you're like, oh, dude, like pastel or muted color palettes is like always in. Well, maybe, but like it's more so now. Like I used Google Trends along with some other search tools to rank the rate at which people search muted or pastel or faded or something like that, and it's like crazy. Like over the last 3 years specifically, I mean, it's gone from like stagnant to like up. And I mean, we've been seeing it with just 2 to 3 colors, 2 to 3 muted colors on whatever kind of apparel. So, like, for example, if the shirt is already this kind of muted, muddy, earthy brown, maybe a little bit nicer looking than brown because there's some red in there, like that's already color one. And then maybe your type is like a really nice cream, and then like your illustration is like a nice pretty blue. Like that's just three, they're all muted, and like that's the kind of style we've seen like going on the up on the increase, like consistently, whether that's packaging or shirts or like hats, for example. It's great to just do 2 colors with a hat, right? A nice like muted maroon or something with like cream type. Yeah, so that's one that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen that maybe, or you kind of have some ideas like, oh, I would use it for these products or something.
Yeah, yeah, I think the from just this past year with the Comfort Colors
Mm,
C1717,
yeah.
that trend with, when I began on Etsy, I feel like I sound like almost, like a older generation person where I'm like, "When I began," but as far as, like, when I started on Etsy, what I was selling just white sweatshirts, white
Mm,
T-shirts, and now we're seeing that trend of the muted shades, so
yeah, yeah.
colors like sand, Gildan 18,000, crew neck sweatshirt, those do really well because it's a
Mm,
muted, almost like beige color, and
yeah,
colors
yeah.
that complement that are the muted colors you're speaking about as well. And then on top of that, the Comfort Color C1717, yeah, those colors, yeah. And the C1717 has so many muted tones that just look so well with other muted tones, like a muted brown, even
Exactly.
instead of black. And that's what
Right,
I've been doing.
yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly, and using, like, and if you wanna use black, it's like what we call, like, soft black or, like, charcoal, but a little bit darker, or maybe, like, gunmetal, right? So really dark, but it's not like pitch black, right? So then you get that kind of softer tone in there, which looks really nice with cream, or it looks really nice with a kind of muted yellow or something like that. So I definitely agree. Now, on the flip side of this ultra muted uh, pastel color palette, we have the more vibrant side, which is still like it's still muted. And the examples I show hopefully will be reminiscent of this, but this is what I'm calling a kitschy retro design trend. And so this is your like kind of 50s, 60s, like, flat illustrations, but still quite a bit of detail through color. So it's like really your bright pastel blues, like imagine baby blues, but like muted, and like vibrant pink, but muted. So it's like it's the lighter side of the pastel spectrum, where you have all these dark, earthy, muted tones that I was talking about. But now with the kitschy style, you have all of these like rounded, it's really weird. It's like rounded but still jagged typefaces or fonts that have this round character, but the points are still quite sharp, juxtaposed with like this really elegant script, along with this muted, vibrant color palette, gives you this like kitschy style, is the only way that I could express it. And I had to use a lot of key terms to come up with that. But use case wise, like stickers are just like way on the rise in this style. Like we're seeing lots of stickers, which I don't know if too many people that I know of experiment with print on demand stickers, but I think like that could be one area where you could experiment with that to see if you can utilize this trend in your store or something like that. What I kind of want to know what comes to your mind when you hear that word, like kitsch or kitschy. It took me like a wild time to figure out that that's what it is.
yeah, I think when I think of that word, maybe like I think of the checker background. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
part of
Okay.
it, where people use the checkered pattern and then they use I think it's the adventurer script that's kind of like a
Yeah.
bubbly
Okay.
on like it's almost like a retro groovy, but not I don't know how would I explain that, but that's what comes up in my head, which I know probably isn't the same as the kitschy. So
I would say that it is kind of that checkered halftone feel, but with the like bright blues and pinks that are like muted. So it's like they've taken that and they've kind of like made it more poppy, not like Y2K, but like, not like RGB bright at all. It's like very, very muted. It's kind of like, it's funny that checker comes to your mind because it's kind of like a 50s or 60s kitchen theme, right? You're gonna see those kind of like bright blues in the paneling on the wall, or what have you. So it's like they've taken that design style or taken that design palette and attributed it to like, a graphic design with illustrations and stuff like that. So that'll be a super fun one to look out for. I would definitely experiment with some like key terms to see what you can come up with for that. On the more, maybe moving up just a couple of years from 50s and 60s, another trend that we have noticed is going really well is what we call the nostalgic editorial style, or like the 80s editorial or 90s editorial. You might be familiar with like old watch ads that have like nice serif type, and there's a big like picture of the watch in the middle, and then there's a bunch of type that's kind of like the ad. But we've seen people utilizing this style of trend for like hoodie designs on the back, you know, card designs, mug designs, just like a simple version for hat designs. But the like that kind of nostalgic editorial style is even starting to be used by like Nike and New Balance again. Like they were using it in the old days, and they're kind of still bringing back that like old-timey feel because it builds that connection. So I don't know if you've seen that at all yet, like product-wise. I don't have specific product examples, but I think it's one to look out for sure.
Yeah, I have kind of been on watching that trend because last year I started seeing it trend at least on like I saw I think the font name on Kindle is like London. Maybe it's not
Oh, okay.
London,
That's one of
but
them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I was looking at that for a little bit, and, now I'm seeing it more as far as on Etsy goes, and it's very simply used. It's not like you said, maybe one graphic, but I'm seeing very simple phrases used in
Right.
it, and it's just a very simple one phrase type of trend I'm seeing right now, but
Yeah.
I think you guys are onto something with that trend, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like it has this charm about it. It's widely versatile, so whether you actually need it for a social post to promote an ad for something, or if you want to make merch design, if you want to make like a presentation, like a title slide or something, or yeah, all the products we mentioned for like print on demand. I mean, it has that nostalgic feel, that charm to it. It gives you more keywords to use, which is always great, especially for Etsy, whether it's for hats or shirts, nostalgic shirt design, something like that. So I think it's definitely one to experiment with. One that I think everybody might be aware of that has been, just increasingly popular is retro mascots. The characters, the retro characters with retro script font, or just really retro fonts in general. They're kind of vibrant. They're really fun. They're highly versatile because you can have mascots that's like an ice cream cone that's smiley faces, and then like a lemon that's smiley faces, and there's just so much you can do with the retro mascot niche. Basically, it's kind of like a niche that has sub niches in itself. But I mean, yeah, we see people use that for everything from logo designs to full on, hoodies and leggings and anything, blankets, whatever. You could do whatever you want with the retro mascot style. Another one that I think will be super fun. I want to mention it here. I think it's maybe more designy than it is consumery, but it's called neo brutalism. And I think it's like a very tame, flat version of Y2K. And I think it's just fun, and it's like very different. It again experiments with very vibrant colors, like pink and orange together, and yellow and orange together, and what that looks like. And it uses kind of like really flat, semi ugly looking shapes, like random squiggles and like little super tiny dots. It's interesting. And so I think if you could experiment with it and create kind of this whole apparel based off of this neo brutalist style. And if you type that on Pinterest, neo brutalism, it'll come up, and you'll kind of see, you're like, oh, I remember that from like, this very short span of time where like websites look like this, like really old, kind of uglyish website design. It's like you think of that, but like with the skills now, you like make it look better. So I don't know how else to describe that,
Mm.
but you kind of take what from that old website looking kind of cruddy style, but now you actually made it nice, and like people want to look at it. So I don't know, it could be fun to experiment with apparel and things like that. So another one that I want to mention here, I'll mention two more that I think would be specifically great, like for consumer style trends, is grunge. And I think everybody would agree that they see this kind of grungy style. A lot of people love creating designs and putting some sort of texture on it, or like halftones or grain or something like that, to make the design either look kind of weathered or textured. But what we've started to notice and look at as we dived into a bunch of Pinterest boards and used some other tools, and like started looking at some of our friends who are really really good graphic designers, is this grunge trend is more of like an ink stamp grunge. So it's like whatever your design is, it's like you stamped it, right? So it has this kind of nice bubbly, grungy texture around it. So it's not just like you have a perfect clean design that you mapped a texture onto, and then your perfect clean design has a texture on it, which is still cool, by the way. It's like this grunge style is like, no, the entire thing is grungy. Like it is dirty. It is like stamped. It like the type is stamped. The illustrations are stamped. Even like portraits, like if you think about when you turn a picture black and white, and then it's called threshold, but it basically like when you like make it really kind of grainy and dungy, the picture sort of kind of looks like it's worn and faded. It's that kind of stamped grungy effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, and it's so funny because before this, I filmed a tutorial using the new logo generator, and
Oh,
I'm pretty
nice.
sure I made exactly what you just said, and I don't
Perfect.
that video may come out before or after this video, so, everyone stay tuned who's watching. If it's not out already, it will be out the next week, but I'm pretty
Nice.
sure I made that because I was like, "Wow, this is really fun," and
Yeah.
I just used the logo generator and I typed in the prompt. I put creative vintage hedgehog mom logo because that
Nice.
was I made an AI hedgehog too with the Kittle AI, and
Oh,
then I put
perfect.
that in the middle, and it looked
Nice.
so cool. It looked like a stamp, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
put it on
yeah.
a tote bag as example, and I was like, "This is so nice for a hedgehog mom," you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and tote bag, like you just said, excellent, excellent product example, because that tote bag, has that nice kind of cream tan burlap feel and color to it. So when you put that nice kind of lighter off black stamp onto it, man, that just looks really cool. I mean, it looks like it has always lived on there.
Yep. Yeah, and it's funny because talking about the muted colors, I used in the color palette, it was a cream as one of my colors, muted brown, and I think like a very like off white yellow color. So it looked a lot
Wow.
like the cream, but it
You hit
uh,
three
uh,
trends in one design there.
yep, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So the last one that I'm going to talk about was a bonus in my video. So the 15 graphic designs trends video that's on the Kittle YouTube channel. This was the 16th one. It was the bonus one, but 15 is a better title. So I call this one the bonus trend. However, you will know it because you've started to see it everywhere. Now, if you search it in like Google Trends, it's kind of more like this kind of flat line, but I just suspect, like, since it has so much to do with other trends, that it's going to start to spike up. And it's what I call like bohemian and mystical design. And so like bohemian already like reaches for the muted color palettes, already reaches for the muted earthy tones, right? That bohemian kind of like dark mud, orange, brown, yellow, like that kind of spectrum with the cream as the highlight color, or like a really, really light salmon color as like that kind of like light accent color. And this goes from like using the kind of organic looking plants. A lot of like, essential oils brands might use this kind of bohemian looking mystical design, but also like tarot card looking designs that fits right in, right? Like what tarot cards look like. I mean, I think you're going to start seeing it a lot more often. I know like a month or two ago, Juna, one of our friends, did a tarot card tutorial on Kittle, which was pretty wild. But he was doing it for a shirt, I believe. And that kind of clued me in. I was like, why is he making a t-shirt design with a tarot? You know what I mean? And so like I started kind of researching it. Now that's its own kind of tag, tarot card or whatever. But if you put it in the larger kind of mystical or bohemian, you know, uh, heirloomy style, I think that you're going to start to see a lot more apparel that way. It's like the classic like arched text around an illustration on the back of a shirt. It's like that really nice tombstone, not arched, tombstone shape with an illustration in the middle of it with some nice text below it. with like hands going like this. I'll send you the
Yeah.
examples, but I'm sure you've probably seen some of that already.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen some really creative ones too, and that's what I love on Etsy is when you see these trends come through and the people who break through the trends and
Mm,
are running out the gates with sales are the ones who get really creative with those and they
yeah,
put like something hilarious in a phrase, because anyone can, with Kittl now, you
yeah,
have all of these amazing graphics and templates at your hands and fingertips, but it's getting really creative with those designs. I think that's what really separates the best sellers from the other people who are just making maybe tarot card types of
right.
t-shirts, but instead they're doing something like, a mom t-shirt and it has like a funny quote on it. And it's like, I can't even like think of something to put in there, but I see so
Right.
many past clients or followers and subscribers who have these bestsellers because they just got really genius with their quotes that they put in those. So
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, and kind of what I just want everybody to think about is not again, not doing a trend for the sake of doing the trend, but seeing what you can learn and pull or draw from the trend, right? Like, oh, these colors are popular because of the comfort color shirt. Okay, I need to look into that. I need to be aware, right? Or like, oh, it looks like this kind of grunge has moved more from like halftones to stamps. Okay, maybe I should look into that. Does that fit what I'm doing, right? So it's not just like now I'm going to put up 15 new products that are a different trend that have nothing to do with what I was selling. I mean,
yeah,
you could try it, but I think if you adhere it and stick it to what you're already doing, and like you said, kind of break through and what you do with the trend mixed with the niche, like stuff that no one would ever think, like you're saying, like tarot card moms, super random, but there's a need for it, right? Or like, yeah, I don't know, kitschy design with fishing. I don't, who knows, it's like, what can you do, what can you blend together to stand out, and I think that's where you win, not just by copying or like, yeah, just doing it for the sake of doing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's like the best point to end on as far as design or blending, of
Mm,
designs with a trend and a niche or audience type that we know is underserved in that regard. Maybe
right,
that audience, like the mom niche or the fishing niche, they're looking for different designs than what's already on Etsy. And I think that's what we're
exactly,
going to see just as we see just about every year on Etsy. There's just those best sellers who just break through that kind of the same design trend. As far as
right.
every year I've been on Etsy, I see it time and time again. Every new year, there's always going to be those designs that are just unique. So besides that, thank you so much, Drew, for coming
Yeah,
on my channel and just sharing all these design trends. I know they have inspired me and fired me up. So, anyone who's watching, don't forget to go to Kittl's YouTube channel in the links down below. If you haven't already, definitely do try out Kittl. I have the links
yeah,
down below as well. And just thank you so much, Drew, for hopping on my channel today and sharing these.
absolutely, was happy to be here, and this was super great, so thanks again.
Yeah, alrighty. Well, see you guys in the next video here.